This thing on? Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yeah. Should you practice art? Or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it. Not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, you know? The one that's gonna be a master. The one that's more than a rapper. The one that's an educator. The one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts. He's got the mindset expansive. He understands that his time combined with travel and concepts makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan.
Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. This video, this live stream is called Comics Today. It is a show that we do on Wednesday to celebrate the best day of the week, that being New Comic Book Day. And I will tell you, Comic Book Day has become even more special as a result of something that I'll talk about in just a moment. But as part of this show, we typically talk about news and current events, things that are top of mind for me and might also be top of mind for you. And above all else, we try to have a good time. We also sometimes have a guest or two on the show. Tonight, we are not going to do that. I've had about an hour and 15-minute break between work me and comic book me, which is not a ton of time to do anything, but hopefully we are still going to have a good show. So we're going to talk about some news and current events, and then I'm also going to announce the winner of the short box giveaway for this month. For those that are not familiar, every single month, Shortbox sponsors a couple of videos on the channel. And in one of those videos, I embed an opportunity to win a $100 credit from them. And all you do is watch the video and leave a comment behind. That's how you get in the running. Then we announce the winner on a live stream. So we will be announcing a winner here momentarily. I'm also going to be going to the chat, and I want to go to the chat to see how you guys chose to celebrate New Comic Book Day. Potentially you made it out to your LCS and you picked up some good books. I want to know what your LCS is. I want to know what books you picked up. If you read something today, I want to know, and it was good, I want to know what you read, so potentially we can prioritize it on our reading stacks. If you picked up recently, not a new book, but a new to you book, we want to know what you picked up so we can live vicariously through you spending money. And I'm going to go to the chat here in just a hot second, but I want to give you a rundown of what we're going to do over the course of this show. I see my Canadian brother, Rush Diehard, up in here. Rush, it is good to see you. A member of the channel, Trev, the shipping guru, it is good to see you. Another member right there, and a blue wrench. Matt Woods, it is good to see you. I started to send you a message earlier today, brother. And the day just got away from me. Tina's up in the house. The OG Blue Wrench is up in the house. It is good to see you. Toy Command is on the board already without a pause. Amazing Spider-Man 700 signed by the great late Stan Lee. Venom Protector, Lethal Protector #1, gold. Oh, Hulk 181. First of all, happy birthday. Second of all, did you buy all those things for yourself, or do you have these magical people in your life that know dope stuff to pick up for you? I want details. Toy Command, I need some details on that. Sergeant picked up some books. Hellblazer 1 through 3. That's what's up. Rob, how you doing, brother? It's good to see you. Got the sword of Savage Conan today. And Love Truth. That's what's up. Some good stuff. My man Joe is up in here. It is good to see you, brother, as always. Frog Brawler is up in here. He said, ended up buying a bunch of stuff, but I haven't been able to read anything yet. So I've got no info for you. No big deal. No big deal. We appreciate you being up in here, brother. Fieldtastic is on the board. Another member of the channel. That's what I see green on my side. Maybe you guys see green as well. Shout out to Fieldtastic for being a member of the channel. And the OG has taken note. Oh man. Treat yourself. Toy Command is a huge fan of treat yourself. That's what he just did. He treated himself for his birthday to some fantastic books. Congrats to you, brother. No doubt about it. It is a great time to buy, not necessarily a great time to sell. But the OG has noticed the wall. We had to switch some things up. I recorded a couple of videos for this week, and then I refreshed the wall. I think it's like 95% new, like 95% new. There's a couple of hanger-oners up there. Rush picked up some stuff. He said just picked up Daredevil 7, the first red costume. That's one of my classic books, brother. I traded somebody for that book back in like 1992 or 3. I traded a buddy for that book. I've had it in my collection forever. Definitely a cool book. I had mine graded. I don't think mine's not as high as that. Mine's not as high as that, but it was free. It was free. That's what I remind myself. My man Herman, my neighbor right up the street. How you doing, brother? Picked up Duke 3, World Tree number 8, Avengers Twilight number 3, and Batman 143. That's what's up. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Dale of Suspense is up in here. It's good to see you. Silver Age Surfer Comics is on the board. Picked up Amazing Spider-Man number 4. First Sandman, dope book. Dope book. Quad cover, dope book. I drove up, I think it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours each way to get my copy of Amazing Spider-Man 4 when I was living in California. It was absolutely worth it. X-Men 1-on-1 with the Mark Jewelers insert, Action Comics from 1946. He said, that's about it. I think you've done enough, sir. I think you've done enough, but congrats to you, brother. Matt's on the board. It says Savage Sword of Conan number 1, Conan the Barbarian number 8. That's what's up. Picked up a raw copy of Spawn number 1 and also a signed copy. Shadows on the board. Congrats to you for those books. Green, I'll take. You wish. Scrolling through the comments here. DC for life, says Trav. That's what's up. Captain Crunch, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Thank you. We've been keeping the DC alive and well. I will tell you, I tried out a new presser recently. I sent 2 books in to be pressed by the presser. One of them was a Green Lantern first appearance of Guy Gardner. And then the other was the first appearance of Batgirl or Batwoman. Yeah, Batgirl. So I sent those 2 books in. Presser did a solid job. Came highly recommended from a member of the comic book community, Lee Atkins. And sent my books in. Books came back. They look good. I'm waiting. I'm giving them a few days to see what happens, whether they revert or whether they maintain. But the person did a solid job. I'm going to try them out a few more times before I make mention of who the company is. Liger Style, it's good to see you, brother. Reggie going, DC for life. No. Hey, let's not get carried away, sir. Let's not get carried away. We are not DC for life over here. We are Make Marvel Mine every day. But DC does have some good stuff, and that has to be acknowledged. Man. Ooh, you know you're a real collector when you got that Hush back. If you guys didn't see the video, I released a fun video. I think it was yesterday or day before. I can't remember. And it was basically a litmus test to see if you are a real comic book collector. All tongue in cheek, having some fun, showing some books that don't necessarily get a lot of love, but overall just having some fun. And I read a comment where somebody, it seems like they still found a way to be offended. Like, recognize that I was having some fun, recognize that they have all the books, yet still were offended. And I sent the person a message. I was like, not a message, but I commented. Let me see if I have this correct. I don't know how you can understand that something's a joke and still be offended. It's just, come on, people, come on. What's wrong with having a little bit of fun? Alan's on the board. Do you think overall market will start to pick back up this year? Seems like most markets are down. Yeah, the market, in my opinion, started to decline, not October of 23, but October of 22. I started to see a change in the market, and it was still hot. Don't get me wrong. But I saw the change in October of 22. That's when I started to notice it. I feel like there is potential for things to turn around after the election. My general position on things is, after the election, there is a chance that the economy could turn around. People might feel better about the economy, and as a result of that, then your discretionary spending on other things will also start to change, i.e. comics, right? But yes, I do believe that it's possible for things to change. So thank you, Rush. I definitely appreciate that. Glad you guys are appreciating the wall. I will probably do an Instagram post about it a little bit later. I like to share some of that stuff. Dale of Suspense on the board. Thank you, brother. I definitely appreciate it. It's always appreciated when somebody takes money out of their pocket and just says, here, thank you. So I appreciate that, brother. Tina made a funny comment here. So Tina commented on that video that I released that she had all of the books with the exception of 2. And her comment was, I'm not telling you which books, 2 books I don't have, because if I say it publicly, magically those books will show up. That is a sign of how awesome this comic book community is, and also a sign of how people treasure people like Tina. And there's a lot of people out there, thankfully, like Tina, where if you say it publicly, it becomes a thing. It becomes real. It will show up like nobody's business and potentially show up in doubles and triples. So I can't remember if Chuck gave me that Mickey Mouse book, if you're referring to, but do you have Turok #1? Man, it's sitting right here. Turok #1 sitting right there. It is literally sitting. And if it's close, but far enough that I would have to go off screen to get it. I'm a real comic book collector. I've got that Dark Hawk number. Do you have it in a 9.8, sir? Do you have it in a 9.8? That is the question. Scrolling down through the comments here. Being offended is trendy now. No doubt, man. No doubt. I mean, people will find a way to find they will click on a video that they know that they don't like, watch that video in its entirety, leave a comment to say how much they did not enjoy the video, then will respond to you responding to their comments. And that's how just people want to be offended. They seek out opportunities to be offended, much like Liger Style has right here. He's offended because of that point. Well done. Shout out to Dale again. I appreciate it. It shows up in all green over here, which is kind of cool. Normally just the names are green, but with him becoming a new member, you are indeed a Swoldier. I think you now have the ability to post my face, which is slightly weird. I don't see the faces on this side, but I think you now have the ability to do that. I'm scrolling through some of the books. Comments. Appleton's on the board. Picked up my oldest book ever, Strange Suspense Stories, Uncanny Tales, Behold the Vision by Alan Class. It's a reprint. Oh, that's cool. It's a reprint of Avengers 57, which is sitting right there in a box, sitting right there in a bin, staring at me. It is definitely a buyer's market. It is a great time to buy books. If you are in a position to be able to buy, I recommend it, right? To the point that I believe that the market is going to rebound after the election. So thankfully, he spelled it with 2 G's, because that is not directed at me. That is not directed at me. I was scrolling through the comments here really quickly. Scrolling through, you're not a comic book collector. Wait a minute. If you're not a true comic book collector, you can focus on other hobbies. There's always Pogs. Oof, that's best. Oof. I never got into the Pogs. Scrolling through, she is indeed. Scrolling down through some of the comments, Tina is the truth. Turok is the bomb. Say them together. Swaggle House has that Dark Hawk and a 9.8 double cover. That's what's up. But does he have 40 some odd copies of it? Because I think I might. The 100K collection is the gift that keeps giving. No doubt about it. Scrolling through, he said 4 out of 10 on the list. No Turok. All good, brother. All good. You are not a collector. Steve Conge is in the house. It's good to see you, brother. The internet is a wonderful place as a content creator. Yes, indeed it is. Some days you just got to walk away from the internet. Some days you have to walk away from it. Tina's throwing out a really provocative thing here. She says, not provocative, but something we haven't done in a long time. This is your first live stream. If this is your first time joining Comics Today Live, we want to know you. We want you to let us know that this is your first time watching a live stream so that we can welcome you properly. Being offended about being offended. Doug's in the house. It is always good to see you, brother. I am scrolling down the comments here. Pogs were great, says Trav. I am scrolling. I am way behind. Got a late start tonight. I have 6+ ASM. That's 12 points. That's at least 12 points. Every copy of ASM 110 is a twofer. It is a twofer. That's how that works. Touche conge. That's what's up. It's good to see you, brother. Scrolling down. I think I'm all caught up. It's my first time watching the show today. Don't be weird, okay? Don't make this weird, Phil. Don't do that, brother. Don't make it weird. PSA real quick, and then we're gonna announce the winner of the short box giveaway for the month. Do not fall for the okie doke online. This week alone, 3 people have sent me fake news stories that are floating out there that look official but are not real. I got a couple last week related to Henry Cavill. So you have to be careful with the internet, because I'm gonna let you in on a secret. Not everything on the internet is true or real or honest. I know some people may find that shocking, but don't believe everything. So there's a rumor making the rounds for the last 2 days about Spider-Man 4. Like, it's official. It's been made known that Miles Morales is going to be in in Spider-Man 4. Like, it's making the rounds as if it were official. Like serious news articles that are, great images and all this kind of stuff. To my knowledge, it is still rumor at this point. It is still speculation. It's so important that you take a moment and go beyond the headline to go to the source. Go to the source website and look to see who they are attributing that to. Second, do a quick Google search. Click on news. And if you're not seeing any other stories about that thing from credible news services, it's probably fake news. Legit fake news. All right, fake news is bad. It never left. Fake news never left. I caught Trev off guard. He wasn't ready. He was not ready. Tina says, I only have 3 ASM 110. Now, this is because you've probably been doing what I've been doing, which is giving them away to people. You've probably doing exactly what I've been doing. The internet does not fact check itself. No doubt about it, says Wayne. So people send me these things. Because they want me to know what's going on. And I appreciate it. I really do. And then I look at it and I'm like, let's do a quick search. Let's read this real quick. Let's look into it. And a lot of times they turn out to be fake news. But I do appreciate people sending me these things, because it's the only way that I can share news that is like real news if I know what the news is. And unfortunately, I don't sit around and just look at the news all day. So I depend upon people to flag it for me. So shout out to those people that send me the news, because I do appreciate each and every one of you. All right. Speaking of appreciation, huge shout out to the folks at Shortbox that put me in a position every single month to give away a $100 credit to be able to buy something on their app. Their app is fantastic. You can buy raw books or graded books. You can buy them at like buy it nows. You could put bids in, and recently they rolled out an auction feature as well. It is honestly my number one site to go to, and it's an app technically, to go to look to see if I can buy something. It really is, because the app is solid. There are dealers, there are comic shops, legit people, individuals, legit people behind the books that are being sold. And I also know the people that run Shortbox. So a lot of credibility on my part is linked to that. But with that said, the winner is Aaron Hampton. Aaron Hampton 7330 is the winner of the Shortbox giveaway for the month. And so, Aaron, when you see this, you have to send me an email to Regie@regiecollects.com, 1G, with your screen name, government name, which are probably the same, And that way I can send over to you the code that will allow you to plug it into the app to get that $100 credit off of a purchase on the app. So there you go. Shout out to him. I encourage you guys to stay tuned. I'll be releasing videos next month, sponsored by Shortbox, and we'll give you another opportunity to win that $100 credit. All right. Aaron Free, you thought it was him. Next time, next month is yours. If you're lucky, next month is yours. Web slinging Matt, how you doing? A lot of Matts up in here. That's what's up. Scrolling through. There you go. I live in the Hamptons. No, that's not the same. That is not the same. All right. So we covered off on that. So I made a comment at the start of the show about the fact that Wednesdays is the best day of the week. It's why we do the show. We celebrate New Comic Book Day by coming together as a community, checking out what folks are reading, talking about what folks are picking up, to let people know that, again, people buy comics because they read them and they enjoy them, right? Wednesday historically has been the day that comics come out, that new comics come out. During the pandemic, that changed. During the pandemic, that changed. DC decided that they were going to do some other stuff. And the change is back. The change has been reversed to the point where Wednesday is now New Comic Book Day again. It is New Comic Book Day again. DC returns to Wednesday for New Comic Book Day beginning Wednesday, July 3rd. In addition to DC's Comics Pro presentation, full of great news about upcoming DC publishing initiatives, DC also revealed plans to return to Wednesday release schedule for new periodicals beginning in July. Responding to feedback from retailers and readers, DC is returning to the traditional Wednesday on sale timing, with new collected editions and graphic novels continuing to release on Tuesday. As a result of supply chain disruption in 2020, the publisher pivoted to Tuesday release schedule for new periodicals. This summer, DC will realign with the industry standard Wednesday releases and New Comic Book Day that fans look forward to each and every week. Part of the reason why I think they pivoted to that was when they went with whoever the publisher is. I can't remember, not publisher, whoever the distributor is. That distributor was pushing out books on Tuesday to align to bookstores. That's when bookstores get their books, is on Tuesday. So I think they just fell in line with what the distributor wanted to do, which was Tuesday release, which was contrary to, I think, how things have been for a very long time in the comic book industry, with books being released on Wednesday. They are now pivoting back. I think it's a good move. I think that comic book shops have adjusted, I think. Many of them still were releasing DC books on Wednesday, just because Wednesday was when people hit the shops, right? Wednesday is what is ingrained into the hobby. That's when you go to the comic book shop, on Wednesday. And so I think it's a good move on their part to pivot back. The industry seemed to want it. Readers seem to want it. And clearly, this show wasn't moving until Tuesday, so I'm glad that they made the pivot back to Wednesday. So let me see. I'm looking over here at the comments here, seeing what you guys are talking about. Smart move indeed by them. I usually get my books on Saturdays, as I now have 2 local shops to peruse. Well, aren't you doing some? You're in a good area. If you have 2 comic shops you can hit up, a lot of people don't have one. So shout out to you, John. Shout out those 2 comic shops. I mean, if that doesn't give away your location, but feel free to shout those shops out. The longer you collect, do you still have time to go over all the comics you pick up? Let me take that down. Also, with the new DC Marvel book costing around $5, do you still pick up new releases? So generally speaking, I have been, for this month, trying to read at least 1 comic per day. That was the goal that I set for myself, and I'm ahead of that curve, right? So it's a mixture of new books and old books. There are some books that I collect because I maintain a full run of them. So for example, Miles Morales is something that I maintain a full run of for my son. Amazing Spider-Man is something that I maintain for myself, because I own every single issue from the beginning all the way to the present day. And I will read those in spurts, right? I will read those in spurts. But generally speaking, if I buy a book, I read a book, generally speaking. It may not be immediately, but it may, like I said, go in spurts. The $5 thing. So the average cost for a book, just generally, I think is about $4, generally speaking, industry. But you know, it's discretionary income. $5 multiplied by whatever I spend won't make or break me. So I'm using discretionary comic book only funds, and I'm not taking funds away from my family in any way, shape, or form. So hopefully, Alan, that addresses your question. Certainly, if you guys have questions, feel free to throw them up there and put them in caps, because that helps my old eyes. Scrolling through, there you go. Appleton's on the board. He said, I've been doing the same, at least one book per day, sometimes three. Ultimate Spider-Man has genuinely been a good read. The price hype is out of hand. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, but liking what I'm reading. And at the end of the day, I think that's part of it. Like if you spend a couple of bucks for a book, and it has some substance to it, right, in terms of the number of pages, but also the quality of the art and the quality of the story. I don't know that you mind so much as if you pay, you know, a couple of bucks for something and don't really enjoy it, and it's like tissue paper and it's not really a great read. I think there's a very big difference in those things. So like last night, for example, I read Daredevil 2, 3, and 4, the original run of Daredevil. So I read that, and then today, where's my thing? And I'm gonna go back to the chat here in a moment. Today I read this book, and I gave you guys a heads up on this one the other day. I think it might have been yesterday. I read this book, Giant Size Fantastic Four #1, and this gives us the origin of Empress Rex, which is a phrase, a catchphrase that Namor has been uttering for decades. We actually now get the origin of where he got that from. And it's I think it's clear retcon. I think it's like clear retcon, but it's fun. I read this story and I rather enjoyed it. I will tell you that I rather enjoyed it. There is a political twist to it that I did not see going in. There's maybe a little bit of a moral tale in there as well, if you're paying attention to it. But overall, I think it was a good story. So if you guys get a chance, I think Fabian did a solid job with it. The art wasn't terrible. I don't care for the cover, but the interior art, I rather enjoyed. I rather enjoyed this book. So if you guys read it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about that if you had a chance to check it out. The facsimile of Green Lantern 87 was $6.99. I had to pass. I respect that. But buy the real thing. If you buy a book if you buy a facsimile for $7, you'll never get the real thing. So I'm not mad at you for that one. I'm not mad at you for that one. Let me see. Herb Marvel is supposed to be dropping prices on their books. I saw something like that in passing. I want to say yesterday, maybe. I saw like $3.99 or something like that. I did not get a chance to dig into it, so I can't speak more about it. Scrolling through some of the comments here. There you go. Brian's on the board talking about Ultimate Spider-Man. How is Spawn still $2.99? Because it's Todd McFarlane and he doesn't have overlords to pay. He doesn't have shareholders commanding or demanding more money from him. I think that's part of it. You know, Todd runs a tight ship over there, man. I just have a feeling. My reading stack is tall, needs to find more time. Brother, set a goal for yourself, like legitimately, right? If you don't have a goal, I feel like you're dealing more with chance, right? But versus my thing was I want to read at least one per day, right? That was the goal. Some days I didn't read any, some days I read 5, right? So, but it all balanced out where my average was above 1. I miss reading. I need to read because it's a great form of relaxation. It's a form of enjoyment. It is me spending money and enjoying that money. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like a part of it. I don't want to just spend it to spend it. I want to spend it and actually enjoy it. I'm the guy that buys new shoes and tries to wear them out of the store. I'm the guy that buys an outfit and wears it the next day. That's just how I roll. That's just how I'm going to get down. Scrolling down through some of the comments here. Scroll. I was psyched about it. I was psyched about the Fantastic Four giant size, right? I read the synopsis and they had me at hello. They really did have me at, because I'm like a closet Namor fan. I'm like a closet Namor fan. And so I want to go back and read, because in this issue, Namor is in it, but he's actually imprisoned in the issue. So I want to read the issue before to find out what the heck he did. I think it's like an Avengers Twilight or Avengers. It's one of the Avengers books. I want to read it to see why the heck he's in jail, because now I'm intrigued. Now I'm intrigued to read a little bit more, you know. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Fake news. Let me see. I did buy the real thing. There you go. You see what I'm saying? So you don't need the facsimile for $7. You own the legit Green Lantern 87. You don't need that facsimile. Scrolling through, what is that? Couple of years late, but I read Craven's Last Hunt. With Lost Hunt from 2022. Amazing. That's the cool thing, man. And you know, and I had somebody say in the comments the other day that the only reason a book suddenly becomes hot is because of speculation and people wanting to make money. Now, I think that's part of it. Yeah, I think that's part of it. But another part of it, I think, is when we hear that movies and TV shows are going to be made about characters. Many of us are intrigued by that, right? Or the show comes out and we watch the show, and now we have an interest in a character or characters that we've never been interested in before. And as a result of that, we go buy the book. Like, I think that that's one of the beautiful things I think about the modern age of movies and TV shows. Like, there's a lot of negative, but one of the positives is I find myself getting interested in characters that I historically have not had any interest in any way, shape, or form. I watched Black Adam. I rather enjoyed it. I went out and read a bunch of Hawkman comics as a result. And I know Hawkman in the movie and the comics are not the same. I watched the Titan show. I started reading some Dove and Hawk and Dove, right? I got interested in these characters as a result of engaging with them in a form of media where I was a little more receptive, and it opened my mind to some of the other stuff. So potentially you read Craven's The Last Hunt because there's been all the talk about Craven. I don't know. Or maybe you it was just in the room and you decided to read it. I don't know. One or the other. Pick one. Scrolling through, let me see. Scrolling through. They make me walk funny, I'll tell you that. New shoes will make you walk because Todd Father is the Godfather. That's what I'm scrolling through some of the comments here. Let me see. Free Namor. Oh, he offended somebody. There you go. I'm offended you said free Namor. If you bust out with a t-shirt that says free Namor, we're going to have a problem. Scrolling through the comments here. Let me see. Secret Wars #5. Don't believe the hype. Hawkman is fire. The version of Hawkman that was in the movie, I thought he was a dope character. I would watch more Hawkman. I'd be honest. I think the actor did a solid job. I watch more Hawkman, and I watch more who was Dr. Fate? Pierce Brosnan. Oh, loves him. He played that role incredibly well. And as a result, I read some Dr. Fate as a result of that. Peacemaker show came out. Didn't like it initially. Finally got into it, started reading some Peacemaker and Vigilante. That again is the power of seeing characters in other media. I think that that's part of the power. Scrolling through some of the comments here, scrolling through, and again, there's a downside to some of it, right? I mean, prices get stupid crazy. You know what I'm saying? You guys are silly. You guys are silly. All right. So we just covered off for those folks that came in a little bit late. DC comics are now going to be released again on Wednesday, starting July 3rd. They moved away from this back in 2020 during the pandemic when they shifted distributors. DC is now releasing new comics again on the proper day, that being Wednesday. So I released a video. I think it was yesterday, a short on Instagram and YouTube that had a lot of people talking. I think that this one was viewed pretty darn heavily. This did Reacher. So it was revealed that Alan Ritchson, the guy that stars in Reacher, which is a phenomenal show, and people say everything on TV is woke. I say to them, watch Reacher, and watch anything from Taylor Sheridan, because it's not woke. But the guy, Alan from Reacher, revealed in an interview recently that he was in the running to play Thor. He was in the running, but did not take it seriously enough. And he literally says that I didn't take it seriously. He says this to Men's Health about his Thor audition. I was like, they'll throw me the part if I look like the guy. Nobody really cares about acting. The outlet also noted after the audition, the casting cabal told his team the role had been his to lose, but he hadn't shown that he had the craft of acting. I will tell you, I think Alan is a fantastic actor for Reacher. I cannot see him playing Thor. Chris, who played Thor, embodied that character in a way that I can't see anybody playing that role, period. Like I just cannot picture the incredibly stoic Alan as Thor. I just cannot see it. Versus when you picture Thor now, it is Chris Hemsworth is Thor in my mind. It would be cool, I think, to see Alan appear in another superhero movie, and I think he's been in a couple of things. He said, he played Hawk. I think he played Hawk in Titans. He wanted to be Dick Grayson. I think he's way too big for that. I've seen some people throw out that he should play Hyperion. I've seen Sentry. I've seen Batman. I think he's a little bit too big to be Batman. I had somebody say maybe he would make a good Punisher. I don't know about that either, because John Berthal is fantastic as Punisher. He embodies that role like nobody's business, in my opinion. But I am interested. Sound off in the comment section. Yes, that is the guy. That is the guy that played Hawkman in the CW. He is. But sound off in the comments if you guys have a role for him. What role would you like to see him in? And I'm trying to see if there's a picture of him. There's not a picture. He's a large man. He is a large man. I don't know how big he is. I mean, he has to be like 6'3" at least, and probably 250, 260. I mean, he's a big dude. But yeah. There you go. I think Lee Atkins is on the board saying that he should be Colossus. And I can kind of see that. I can kind of see him being Colossus, right? I struggle with Titans. You didn't like Titans? It was season 1 and season 2. I thought were solid. I did not like the Batman and Titans. I didn't like the Batman and Titans, but I enjoyed it. It was a way, again, for me to be exposed to characters that previously I had no interest in. And then I found myself reading New Teen Titans. And I found myself reading that kind of stuff. Hawk and Dove, as I mentioned. TV makes him look tall. How tall is he? How tall? I would search for it, but I would jack some stuff up. How tall is Alan? How tall? I thought he was at least 6'3". I thought chat, I thought TV made you look fat, not tall. I mean, maybe they shoot up at an angle or something like that, but he seems like a tall man. Scrolling through, he could be the Thing in the Fantastic Four, Colossus. I fall an inch short in 20. you're a big dude too. Then if you're measuring up like that, you're a big dude too. He can do Colossus without CGI. Somebody look up the stats. 6'4". Is that right? Is that legit? Or did Comics of the Voice just make that up? Is he 6'4"? Because he's a large man. He is a large man. Scrolling through 6'2", but the internet. As we've already established, the internet lies, no doubt about it. Search shows he's 6'2". What? Aaron, we gonna put you on timeout. You keep that up. Scrolling through, he could play Wolverine. If Hugh Jackman can play it, why can't a 6'2", 6'4" dude do it as well? What is that? All right. It says Alan. Now, Joe, I believe Joe. He's a serious guy. Around 6'2" inches, while Jack Reacher in the books is described as 6'5". Okay, there you go. So maybe they do hit a little bit of an angle, but 6'2" is not short. 6'2" is not short, no doubt about it. He was hilarious in Blue. I never saw that. He can joke. He does not strike me as having a wide range of acting ability. Stoic, brooding, aloof. Those are probably that to me. That's his range. That's his range right there. Funny, charming, not so much. But I could be wrong. I can be wrong. Jez hires short supporting. He look at a giant. He look at you. You surround him with very short people. He looks like a giant. Let me see. 6'2", 230. All right. So my numbers were off. He's still a big man. I don't care. I'm sticking by it. Long walk. Hey. How tall is Tom Cruise? Like 5'3", 5'4", something like that. I don't know my actors very well. I'll be honest with you. He was in Wedding Ringer. He can play a doofus well. I don't know, Pope. I don't know. All right. Again, if you guys have questions, throw them in the comment section. Maybe we will talk about some of those things. We will go no agenda, no attenda up in here. Let me throw this up real quick. This was a story that I saw that I thought some folks may actually have some interest in, because there's a lot of folks out there that don't really jam with some of the superhero stuff. They like some different stuff. So after 70 years, EC Comics returns from the crypt with Oni Press deal. The publisher will launch all new stories in the style of the influential horror and science fiction publisher starting this summer. And this was actually an article that was released a while ago. It got past me, and so I wanted to kind of share it. In the 1950s, EC Comics was the bad boy of comic publishers. Its comics such as Tales from the Crypt, Weird Science, which I've seen a lot posted on social media the last few days, and Two-Fisted Tales sold millions in mid-century America. Unfortunately, its stories, at times shocking, horrifying, and even progressive, also drew scrutiny and backlash, and the company found itself in the crosshairs of censorship and regulation at the height of the McCarthy era. The company ultimately shuttered, with the last comic hitting newsstands and drugstores in 1956. Now, after all that time, EC is actually back. And it says that Oni Press has partnered with the guy that owns the rights to the EC line to launch all new stories with A-list creators beginning this summer. And so some of those writers are Jason Aaron, who did a fantastic job on Thor, Rodney Barnes, who works on Philadelphia and a lot of other stuff. Do I reckon Matt Kilt from Berserker? Those are really the only names that I recognize. There's a couple there, Brian from 100 Bullets, and also That Texas Blood, Chris Condon. I don't necessarily recognize those names, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how they come back. And I say that because back in the 50s, a lot of what they were doing was probably shocking, right? Blood, gore, that kind of stuff. I think that people's appetite for what they find shocking is different now. So it'll be interesting to see what type of stories they are able to tell that are shocking and also enjoyable at the same time. But EC has some fantastic covers. At some point, I may actually pick up some of these books. They have some fantastic covers, so fingers crossed that they come back with this same type of style, because you don't see this now. You don't see this type of cover anymore, and it would be cool. It would be cool, I think, to see those come back. So I don't know. I'll see what you guys think about this. Maybe there's an interest in seeing some of this stuff come back. But yeah, well, I wanted to make sure that I shared that with you guys. Let me see. What is this? Alan's on fire tonight. Alan's asking a lot of questions. Also, did you have experience with your own books getting damaged with CGC via reholder or grading? He received some books damaged via reholder, not case damages. You know, I've sent hundreds of books to CGC, and yes, occasionally I have had some books be damaged. CGC has made things right in a lot of respects. Occasionally I've received a book that was damaged and I missed it, right? They graded it, let's say a 9.6, for example. And while they were encapsulating it, dog-eared one of the corners and I didn't see it in time. And there was no mechanism for me to ask them to make it right after the 14-day period. I don't think that I've ever really had a book reholdered. So grading is primarily my thing. Have I had some books damaged en route from CGC? Yes. I had a bunch of magazines. When we did the guide to smart comic collecting, we received a lot of those back, and several of them were damaged, and CGC again was able to make it right in those respects. So it takes a little bit of work because you've got to send them back and blah, 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 right? But yeah, it happens. It happens. It's not right, but it does happen. Let me see. What is that comment? Nate's on the board. He says 1G. Nate, look at me. 1G. I'm going to start grading books. I would like help in how and what to look for when sending in a book. I would say, Nate, if you search YouTube for Regie Collects Submission or Regie Collects Stop, you will find a series of videos in which I give you tips and pointers for what types of books you should be sending. And it's things like, consider the value of the book once it's graded, and the cost to get that book clean, pressed, graded, shipped to and from. Does it make sense? All kinds of tips and pointers. And if you are challenged with finding a video, if you message me on Instagram, I should be able to point you in the direction of a video that will help you. But I will tell you for a fact, there are dozens of videos out there where I offer tips and pointers for what to look for, what to send, what not to send. So check that out. If you run into a challenge, you let me know and I will take care of you. There you go. I had at least 2 books I had to return to CGC for a correction. But other than that, I had one situation where they I sent in 2 copies of a book. Both of them came back a 9.8. But one was labeled a reprint and the other wasn't. They were the exact same book. So I took photos, documented it, and sent that back the one. They then corrected the label, sent it back to me. So it's all kinds of crazy stuff that has happened. But generally speaking, they've always made it right by me and also by Liger. So scrolling through, I got a signed 9.8 Michael Turner cover that I would like to send for a reholder, but I don't want to risk it coming back a lower grade. I wouldn't. That's just me. I wouldn't, because CGC does reserve the right to regrade a book if there is significant deviation from the grade that's currently on the book. And they do that for example, if you think about it, if a book comes back and it's sun damaged, right? Because they're not UV protected. So if somebody sent in an old case 9.8, that is clearly sun damage, it should not get another 9.8. It should be reconsidered. But you also have to think when they're cracking it out, that book could get damaged, right? So if you do it, you have to crack it out. I would recommend getting it pressed again to make sure. And then, but it's kind of all risky. It's all risky. You have to give serious thought to whether you want a reholder, whether you want them to crack it out and have the book signed, because you can lose a grade. That has happened to me too, where I bought a 7.5 of Amazing Spider-Man 50, cracked it out, had it signed by Stan Lee, came back 7.0. Same book, 7.5 to 7.0. The value increase went up tremendously, so I don't really care, but it would have been great to have the 7.5. So it is what it is. Yeah, man, message me and I will. Brother, Nate, 1G, Nate, 1G. Come on, Nate, scrolling through. All right. Again, if you guys have questions, throw it up in there and we will try to address it if there are questions. I'm scrolling through some of the comments. Phil, take care. I know some folks got to go. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit. I appreciate you guys. Scrolling through. Let me see. Alan is asking another question. I missed this one earlier. He said, are you still comfortable picking up major keys greater than $1,000 with CGC? Yes. Yes. I think people have to use their own judgment if they are spending their hard-earned money to buy comics. They should use their own judgment, and they should never substitute my judgment for their judgment, right? But generally speaking, I have not stopped adding books to my collection. Now, mind you, some of the books that I'm looking for are not crazy expensive, because many of the ones that are more expensive, I kind of sort of already own. But I've not stopped adding books to my collection. And it doesn't matter whether it's CGC or CBCS, I still buy the books because I feel comfortable. You have to do what makes sense for you. What is that? Maybe a dumb question, but does the Comic Code Authority still exist? I think that it does. The Comic Code is a self-regulating type of organization. So I think that there are people that exist within the publishers that evaluate this stuff, right? Is it still relevant? That's another story. I think it still exists, but is it relevant? I think is probably what you're getting at. And I would probably say no. Scrolling down through the comments here. What is that? Chris is asking a question. Are you of the opinion that when submitting books to CGC, you should keep Silver Age stuff together or mix silver? No, I would keep it separate, and I would keep it separate. And I've done videos on this. If you search for Regie Collects on YouTube, Regie Collects CGC submission, you will probably find videos. I tend to separate them just because, and I think I don't know if this is still the case, but once upon a time, the books moved through the system at a slightly different rate. So your modern books move through a little bit faster than your older Silver Age books. So I was always of the opinion that they go on separate invoices, but they can go in the same box, if that makes sense, right? So I would put maybe 5 Silver Age Spider-Man books on one submission, and I would put those 5 books in a Gemini, and I would affix to that invoice. I would maybe do another 5 modern books on a separate invoice and a separate Gemini, and affix that invoice to that Gemini. I would put both Geminis in a larger box with a bunch of protection and ship that off to CGC, because those are going to route through the system a little bit differently. So that's what I've always done. And I pretty much still do it, except now I tend to send more of one age book than the other. So I don't do as much double shipping, if that makes sense. Let me see. I've been fine. What is that grade back there? 9.6. 9.6. I think, did that come out of the 100K collection? I think that may have come out of the 100K collection, that Batman Adventures number 12, raw. And I think I sent it in graded. I think that is true. I may have lied. We may have to fact check me. Somebody fact check me that remembers this stuff a little bit better than me. Fat Cat is on the board, new to the hobby and love your content. How do you not get so overwhelmed with collecting your childhood characters while discovering new ones? It is a challenge. It is a challenge. What I will tell you, Fat Cat, is when I came back into the hobby at the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018, I was overwhelmed and I was spending a ton of money. I was spending a literal ton of money trying to play catch up on the hobby with all the things that I had missed out on, all those things that I wanted to buy when I was younger but could not afford, but now I had the disposable income to do it. I did it. I let it fly, brother. And as I spent that money, again, all disposable money, I started to amass the stuff that I've always wanted. I was then able to kind of pump my brakes and look at what I had done, right? And that's when I started to come up with these goals for myself to control my spending, to focus my spending, to ensure that I wasn't just spending to spend, but I was spending with a purpose. And so I think you may want to have fun. First have fun, right? That's important. But then you start to I think you should start to put controls in place to ensure that you are collecting in a way that is financially responsible and actually enhances your collection, because it's easy to spend money. It's easy to spend money, but and to that point, you want to make sure that when you are spending that money, you're spending it in a way that is enjoyable, that is not putting you in a bad situation, and is also putting your collection in a good place. And so I set a goal for myself of wanting to have the best Silver Age Marvel collection that I possibly could get. And then I focused on collecting all of Amazing Spider-Man. And then I focused on enhancing my DC collection. And I'm still to some degree or another working on that. But DC Silver Age specifically. So by setting these little goals for yourself, it allows you to control your spending. So hopefully that helps. And again, there's a ton of videos on the channel that talk about goal setting. If you search for Regie Collects Goals or Regie Collects Goal Setting, you will find videos. Generally, what I tell people is I've been creating videos for years with a purpose to help new collectors and newly returning collectors be smarter about the hobby. So if you search for my name plus a term or two, you will find videos on that topic. And if you cannot, you reach out to me and I will hook you up. I use the shipping method you described in your videos using 2 USP boxes. There you go. Somebody once upon a time told me that it was illegal to do that. They told me it was illegal to do that. And I said, show me the section on the USP website that shows that you cannot do that. That person was unable to do it. That's again, the internet in that case was indeed undefeated. But that shipping method works, right? Shipping method works. Books arrive very safely. Again, you want to ship books, you want to send them to CGC, you want to trade books, you want to buy from IG, you want to buy from Facebook, you want to find out where you can buy books where people aren't necessarily going. How do you negotiate? How do you buy collections? You search for Regie Collects plus that thing, you will probably find videos that will help you. Scrolling down through some of the comments here. Worked fine. There you go. Worked fine. That's what's up. Thank you. Glad you remember. That book right there came out of the 100K collection. What else? That book came out of the 100K collection. That book may have come out of the 100K collection. That one did. The one that's behind me did. That one. And these two I bought. I was on a New Gods kick for a period, and I bought. That's I think one of the only PGX books in my entire collection. One of my only PGX books right there. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Painful question I have. Fantastic for 48. That is incomplete, missing pages. Worth submitting, or should I keep it raw? No, do not submit that book. I would not. The price right now for Fantastic Four 48 is in a place where I would potentially buy it. I would buy a complete version right now. Right now. A year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, potentially not the time. Now could be the time. I would not grade that book. I would not. That's just me. I don't do incomplete books. So another thing, kind of getting back to a question someone asked, one of the things that I did for myself is I set a standard for my collection. I don't do rusty staples. I don't do incomplete books, generally speaking. Do I have a book or two here or there that are incomplete and have rusty staples? Yes. But the standard is such that those things are not permissible or allowable in the collection. That allows me to spend money, but spend it in a way that enhances the collection. It that is in a way that is meaningful to me. What your standard is might be different, but you might want to think about, what is the standard? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? How do you want to enjoy this hobby? If you can ask yourself those questions and answer those questions, then when you spend money, more than likely you're going to spend that money in a wiser way than if you had not considered those things. Scrolling through, keep it raw, says John. There you go. Nothing wrong there. So there is nothing wrong with not grading a comic. There is nothing wrong. Mylar and poly bags are amazing. Amazing. I will tell you, not a fan of top loaders, but maybe that's your jam. Top loaders, you cannot go wrong. Every book does not have to be graded, despite what you see behind me. Just ignore just ignore that. Just ignore that. Scrolling through, I sold my Transformer 1 first print 9.6 for 300. Man, I would have bought it for that. I would have bought it for that. Scrolling through, I had the same issue. I started to have more disposable income. I spent on everything. I would double buy stuff because I forgot what I had. Yep. There is not a collector amongst us that has not made that stupid mistake, right? It's part of the hobby. It's part of finding your way in this hobby, making mistakes, right? Like, that's part of it. And to be honest with you, a lot of the videos that I created on the channel are me warning people against the mistakes that I've made or that I've observed other people make. Again, it's all about making people smarter, but that happens. It happens. And you're probably in a better place now where you're not doing that because you're paying closer attention, because you maybe catalog what you have. Maybe you're reading just about everything that you buy. Maybe you're now smarter about how you have your pull list set up, right? It's about getting better. It's about getting better. What is that? Then I started to think about what I really wanted out of the hobby. I wanted to read with my kids and friends. So now I buy trades, easier to share and then give them away. Nothing wrong with that. What advice would you give someone who wanted to create their own comic book? That's hard. Well, the first thing I would say is do it. First thing I would say is do it. You want to do it, live your dream. There is nothing like having a dream and having that dream come to life. I would say, and I don't know whether you are the writer or the artist or whether you're like me and you don't have either one of those talents, right? I think you have to try to find good people to work with. You want to make sure that you have a plan, not just for the book, but how you're going to market the book and how you're going to sell the book, what you specifically are going to do, not what you're going to try to get other people to do, but what you are going to do. It's easy to make a book. It's another thing to complete a book. It's another thing to market a book. It's another thing to sell a book. It is another thing to make a profit on a book. But go for it. Go for it. It is not easy, but it is amazing when it happens. Reef says, I really need to get an early clay face. That's what's up. Get after it, brother. That is good. That's a good goal. That's a good goal. Scrolling down to some of the comments, I am way behind, way behind. Just got back New Gods, number 1, 9.4. White Pages from CGC. Congrats on that, brother. That's what's up. What is that? Nice. New Gods. It's a tough book in higher grades. DC had bad paper. Scrolling down through, it seems like the longer you collect, most likely you will end up buying slabs instead of raw due to the standard going up. You know, for me, I think it's not, I don't think it's about the duration of how long you may collect. I think it's about what you collect and how you collect, right? And what I mean by that is if you buy pulps, for example, and that's your jam, those just recently started getting graded. So you're buying raws, right? If you decide that your standard is lower grade comics, then you don't necessarily need to buy a graded book. You can get raw books. Maybe you're not really into expensive comics. You don't necessarily need to buy graded books. If you are buying remotely, where you can't get your hands on the book and flip through and count the pages and feel the paper, then going with a graded book is a great way to go, because it, to some degree, is separating out controversies. Buying a graded book was less risky than buying a really expensive book remotely where you could not get your hands on it, right? If you have the expertise to be able to feel paper and know what a book should look like, if you have the ability to grade books raw, then buying raw is not bad. But if you don't necessarily have those skills to grade a book, figure out what the grade may be, if you're not comfortable negotiating for the price based upon the grade and the defects that you're seeing, buying graded books takes a lot of that away. So a lot of it depends. It's not about the time at which you're in the hobby. It's what you are buying, the standard that you have, how much you're spending, and how you are buying your books. I think that are important factors to think about. So scrolling through some of the comments. Raw is the way that I collect about 95% of my collection. Here's the thing, about 95% of my collection is raw as well, because I have a ton of comics. Overall, a small percentage of my books are actually graded. Despite what you might see, I like to display these because, I feel like if they fall, will the case crack? Probably, but the book won't be damaged, unlike a raw book. If I put it back there, even in Mylar, it could potentially get damaged. Plus, it looks better. They take up more space than a raw book. But yeah, you got to do what makes the most sense for you. I have about 1,375 books and 25 are slabs. There you go. Nothing wrong with that. Scrolling through, I just want to avoid any trimming or questionable grading, or simply you don't want to have someone damage my books due to negligence, hence slabby. There you go. Again, you're making a wonderful argument, right? But if you can detect trimming, then you could buy that, right? By buying a graded book, you are de-risking it. Again, separating out controversies, that is less risky than buying a raw book. Heck, there's even people that have printed fake comics on old paper that when you touch it, it feels like the old paper. It's all kinds of crazy stuff, out there going on. So scrolling through, what is that? Greg is saying, I'm new to this, but watch your videos often. Is there a price point on a book that should get CGC? Obviously a $50 book, but so for me, I tend, all right. So in the videos, I use an all-in cost of about $70. That assumes acquisition costs, clean, press, grade, ship to and from, right? All in $70. If a book is worth whatever, if a book is worth $100 and it costs me 70, that margin is not enough for me. That margin is not enough. $30 margin is not sufficient for me. And why? Why is it not sufficient? It's not sufficient because the value of comics fluctuates. Comics don't just go up, they fluctuate. So if the margin is $30, if the value of that book comes down because maybe there's a bad movie that comes out or something like that, now I'm in the negative. So I wouldn't do it, right? Where is the threshold for you? I don't know. Depending upon the book, depending upon the character, depending upon the grade, depending upon what we're talking about, I want more cushion, not less. I want more cushion, not less. And again, let's say that it cost me $70 to get this book graded and it's worth $200. Should I send it in? Maybe. How much do you like the character? How much do you like the book? What are you doing with the book? Are you going to sell it or are you going to keep it in the collection? What's the urgency to send it in to get it graded right now versus waiting, right? Like those are some of the questions that I would ask. And so it's difficult for me to answer it in the abstract. But I would say you want to have some margin to absorb the fluctuations in value and to absorb the fact that you're not a grader. So when you send the book in, what happens if the grade is off by a point or two? You could be underwater, right? So depending upon how good your grading skills are, depending upon the ebb and flow of the value of that book, you probably want more cushion, not less. But again, I would say with all of this, I'm answering some of this stuff in the abstract. You can always reach out to me on Instagram. Usually reach out to me on Instagram with a specific question and I can try to answer for you. I've had some people reach out like, hey, which of these 100 books should I get graded? I will look at the first 2 for you. And after that, I'm out. I can't do your homework for you, right? But yeah, hopefully that helps. Scrolling through some of the comments here, seeing what else you guys are talking about. I'm all about learning how to grade and spot restoration to avoid catching bricks and getting the best deals. Nothing wrong with that. That is dependent upon you getting the books in your hand, having a certain expertise, having a black light to be able to spot restoration. All good stuff. All good stuff. No doubt about it. I'm scrolling through some of the comments again. I'm behind. Scrolling through. All DC Wall is a beautiful thing to see. That's what's up. Thank you, man. I definitely appreciate it. Glad you like that. Scrolling through, seeing what else you guys are talking about. I do not buy graded books. I would rather have my own keys graded. I have also 30,000 books down from 60,000 books. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I'm a nostalgia collector buying books I used to have. That's mostly run. So there's a few valuable books, but none are slabbed. Just not my thing. Nothing wrong with that either. Nothing wrong with that. Again, there's no wrong way to collect. I think it's a 9.0. I think that's a 9.0. I got that relatively inexpensively during an auction during the pandemic from A1 Comics out there. Scrolling through, a couple of you guys are talking about don't sell on eBay. Do not do it. Do not do it. Scrolling through, let me see. Ruben's on the board. He said, good evening, Reggie. 1G. And everyone in the chat, I've been following you for a few months now and like your content. I got back into collecting back in 2022 and have a couple of questions to ask. Ruben, I will attempt to ask them. But again, you guys can always reach out to me on Instagram. If you guys are on Instagram, I always respond. Always. Which books do you recommend putting in top loaders, and what's your method when storing your comics? So I don't use top loaders. I'm not a fan of top loaders, not in any way, shape, or form. Not my jam. I think they take up too much room. I use BCW bags and boards. I use BCW bags and boards, and I use BCW bins by and large. If you search on YouTube for Regie Collects bags and boards, Regie Collects comic storage, Regie Collects storage on YouTube, you will probably find a couple of videos in which I talk about my setup here in the room, the types of bags and boards that I use, and the reason why. Again, for those folks that may have come in late, search for my name plus a term or two. You will find what you are looking for. A ton of stuff. Yeah, black light. Black lights go a long way. Black lights go a long way. Scrolling through. Most major keys dealers and sellers will not let you blacklight or even let you examine the books on the level you need to prior. Then those are people that I would not do business with. Those are people I just wouldn't do business with them. I will tell you, I've never encountered that. I've never encountered a single seller not willing to let me physically examine a book. I've never encountered that. What I will always do is ask if I can take it out of the plastic. Sometimes they prefer to take it out. Sometimes if they know, if you appear to know what you're doing when you're handling books, they will let you go ahead and do it. I've never encountered someone that would not let me do it. And if I do, that is not a person that I'm going to do business with. That is just not going to happen. You clearly either have something to hide or just don't know how to do good business, and I will not do it. All right. So I think we got to get out of here, man. I've been going a little bit too long. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. Huge shout out to the short box winner again. which is Aaron Hampton. Shout out to Aaron Hampton. And again, thank you guys for all the wonderful questions. I think Alan was definitely on fire with his questions tonight. We may have to do more of these no agenda, no attenda type of things where I just take questions from you guys. You can always reach out to me on Instagram at Regie Collects. I'm always happy to hear from you guys. If you leave comments on videos, I always try to respond and read to those as well. But if you want to reach out to me, do not do it on Facebook. Do not do that. Instagram is the way to get me. All right. With that said, I want to thank you guys for hanging out. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. And if you did, I want to encourage you guys to give the video a thumbs up. If you have a friend that might be interested in what we do here on the channel, invite them over. Invite them over to hang out for a little bit. If you are here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, I want to invite you to do that. And as I mentioned, if you want to reach out to me, you can do it on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
Straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms with pure souls having them conversations. Synergy and combinations. You fly and we waiting. Indian style in the gold temple of greatness. When you follow the North Star, you coming for the education. This is my audio book. These rhymes are just the imagery. More like an audiographic novel or a memoir about a young MC making timeless music with his mentor. I pray I grasp my letters. Nothing was meant to last forever.